Hi, I got in a great question from one of my viewers. They asked me, what do I do if I think my spouse is hiding assets? So let's answer that question today. I'm Tom Marks with the Marks Law Firm in Orlando, Florida, and welcome to the Healthy Family Law Attorney. So if you believe your spouse is hiding assets, the first thing you're going to need to do, and this may sound a little self-serving, but you're going to need to hire an experienced family law attorney. And I'm talking about an attorney that practices either exclusively or at least primarily in family law. Family law has a lot of intricacies and a lot of areas that require some level of experience and expertise in order to know what to do in situations like this. So you don't want to get an attorney that dabbles in family law that maybe is primarily, I don't know, a real estate attorney, criminal defense attorney, PI attorney, or something of that nature. So your experienced family law attorney is going to be able to give you advice and know what to do. First, you're probably going to need to look through the documents at home to see if you can find any documents showing any hidden assets, any transfer out of existing bank accounts or brokerage accounts, or purchases of larger assets. We'll get into things like Bitcoin or precious metals, things like that that hold their value or can appreciate. Or it can be an asset like a car or a boat or something of that nature. So you look at those. Now, if you're concerned about your spouse finding out that you've taken those documents, then go ahead and take pictures of them. Take pictures of the documents and send those to your attorney electronically is probably the best way. You can forward those pictures. Now, your attorney is going to be able to get a lot of documents from your spouse through the formal discovery process. But if you have the ability to bring in a copy of or take a picture of prenuptial agreement, tax returns, bank statements, brokerage statements, mortgage statements, things like that, it's always helpful to the attorney to go ahead and get a jump start on that. Okay, so your experienced family law attorney is going to know the next step, and it may be to go ahead and file the petition to establish a date of filing. And so the date of filing is to determine what are marital assets and debts, gives the court that period in time that establishes that. And the court can use a different date, a later date, if the court chooses to actually value what the court has already determined to be marital or non-marital assets and liabilities. So your attorney will know to hire a forensic CPA or a forensic accountant or a CVA or some other financial expert in order to take a deep dive and to follow basically the rabbit holes. Your attorney is going to send discovery like mandatory disclosure, request to produce, interrogatories, request for admissions, things like that, and accumulate all those documents to be able to give to the financial expert, who will then be able to trace outgoing numbers, outgoing expenditures from bank accounts, brokerage accounts, and so forth, and follow to see if those monies are being placed in a different account that's not being provided, or being used to buy significant assets that are not being disclosed. Those kinds of things, the financial affidavit has expertise in. And again, your family law attorney will know those specific financial experts that are experienced in this area. So the financial experts will also look at things like in the tax return, if there is a 1099 that shows some dividend or interest income from a brokerage account or a bank account or some other money market or so forth that has not been disclosed, that will easily show that there are other accounts that are being hidden or not being disclosed. So the next thing your attorney may recommend is to hire a private investigator. So I've had a private investigator on my channel, done an interview with, and he talked about several ways that he's been able to find hidden assets through surveillance, through hidden bank accounts. The surveillance may lead to the discovery of a girlfriend or a boyfriend that the spouse is hiding assets with, or with a family member or other good friend, perhaps, that assets are being hidden with. So surveillance may be important, and there's certain avenues that private investigators use to find hidden assets in addition. So the next one I'm often asked about is, what about offshore accounts? You've got accounts in the Cayman Islands or the Isle of Man, or even in Europe. So there have been significant changes in the laws of these types of offshore accounts, these hidden bank accounts, with multinational agreements. They are now required to provide to the IRS a reporting of any income or interest that is generated from those accounts. So that's, the idea of the typical Swiss bank account. Those banks are now disclosing that type of information to the IRS, which would then show up on the tax return, or would flag a tax return that's not disclosing or showing those dividend or interest income from those offshore accounts. Okay, so finally, something that I use pretty extensively in these types of situations is, after I've done all the discovery, maybe had a forensic CPA or accountant do a deep dive on all of the discovery, maybe had a private investigator or not, looked at whether they're offshore accounts and so forth, I will take the deposition of the spouse. I will take the deposition perhaps of family members, of a girlfriend or boyfriend that's been disclosed or learned about through the private investigator, coworkers maybe, that kind of thing. It's interesting how you can catch people in those kind of depositions, either in lies, or they realize they're under oath, subject to penalties of perjury, which is a crime in the state of Florida. So they oftentimes come out with truth in a deposition when they're under that kind of pressure, where you catch them in inconsistencies and so forth. So depositions can be very powerful. They're a bit on the expensive side because they can be multi-hour depositions, and you got to pay for the court reporter and so forth. So I leave that for last often, because I can often use what we've learned in the traditional discovery with a mandatory disclosure, request to produce interrogatories, and through the forensic CPA to really focus in and laser down on the questions that need to be asked. So that's how you find hidden assets in a divorce situation. I hope this has been helpful. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave comments like the one that led me to answer this question today, and I'll be happy to answer your questions also. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Talk to you next time. Thanks.